about the macroeconomic determinants, including three main determinants that are what domestic product growth rate, inflation rate, and interest rate. The first is GDP growth rate. On the one hand, there are some studies indicated that it has positive correlation with ROE because when the higher GDP growth rate, it means the higher demand for loans and also it increases the bank profitability. But on the other hand, it has negative correlation with ROE because when the higher GDP growth rate, it means that the higher amount of non-performing loans, therefore it reduces the bank profitability. The second determinant in macroeconomic determinant is inflation rate. Most of the previous study indicated that it has positive correlation with bank profitabilities because bank can forecast correctly the change in inflation rate. Therefore, they can adjust the interest rate and earn more profits. However, there are some arguments that inflation rate has negative effects on bank profitability because when inflation rate increase, it means that the deposit increase, and therefore the interest expense increase, and of course the profitability of banks reduce. And the last but not least, is interest rate determinants. All of the previous studies that were reviewed in my papers gives the same result as interest rate has significant and positive correlation with bank profitability because when the interest rate increase, it means that the spread between the saving and borrowing rates will be extended and profitability of banks also increase. And from all of the above literature review, we find out the literature that our research, it concludes the three main points. The first is time of the study. None of the previous research have studied about the periods of time from 2008 to 2013 as our research. And the second is variables that was used in the model. Our study has added the variable of balance as the industry-specific determinants that will reflect the characteristic of Vietnam commercial bank market. And the last is different samples. None of the previous journals have a study about the 23 commercial banks over 39 stock bank in Vietnam. That's all about the chapter 2 literature review of our work, and the next part about the theoretical model will be presented by my team member, Mr. Tuấn. Be welcome.
Okay, so thank you very much, and I would like to continue our presentation by presenting about the theoretical model. And we propose the original model as you can see on the screen. The equation here, the notion for you can see here the return on asset of an IIT. We denote as ROT, ROIT, and it is the sum of 10 factors, the alpha, which is the constant or the intercept, and the other 9 factors is the product of the slope coefficient beta and the variables x, it. And in this presentation, we will try to find out the value of beta and whether or not the variable affect ROA will be determined by beta. If beta equals 0, it means that this variable has no effect to ROA. But otherwise, if beta different from 0, then the variable has linear correlation to ROA. And let me remind you again about our determinants. We group our variables into 3 groups: the bank-specific determinants, macroeconomic determinants, and industry-specific determinants. And later on, you will see how much each variables affect ROA. And in the next part, will be presented by Wen. Please.
Thank you, Tuấn, for your presentation. Now I would like to move on to chapter 3 of our thesis. It's about methods, data, and model. I will talk about the methods. Firstly, regarding research philosophy, we select positivism because we collect data from observable subjects, and our research is inclined to natural science with quantitative methodology. Secondly, as for our research approach, we take deductive. Regarding methodological choice, we choose quantitative. Next, type of study. Our research can be categorized into descriptive, explanatory. As for research strategies, we have two strategies in our research, archival and experiment. Last one, time horizon of our group is longitudinal. That's all about the methods. Because of the time limit, so I will just only present briefly about this part. And if you want to add further explanation about this part, we will come back to it in the Q&A. Next part will be data collection presented by Thủy, our beloved team member.
Thanks, Ms. Ian, one more time. And to continue our presentation today, I will move to the next part, the data collection. The first is sampling technique. In this paper, we use non-probability sampling technique because we choose our sample based on four criteria. The first is availability of data from 2008 to 2013. The second is the bank size selection, including three main bank size, that's big, medium, and even small bank size. And the nature of business of banks and the sampling scale that is big enough to reflect the all the whole commercial bank in Vietnam. And about the data, in this paper we use secondary data that include the financial statement from the official website of 23 banks and the other data from the official website of General Statistics Office and State Bank of Vietnam. And now we move to the selected variables and forecast for the effects on bank profitability. The first, due to our ability, the availability of data as the reference from the previous studies, we choose 5 bank-specific determinants, including bank size, capital adequacy, credit risk, cost management, and tax rate, and 3 main determinants for macroeconomics, including GDP growth rate, inflation rate, and interest rate, and 1 more industry-specific determinant that is added. And for the forecast part, we forecast that bank size, capital adequacy, credit rate, GDP growth rate, inflation rate, and interest rate will have positive effects on bank profitability, and the remaining variables will have negative effects on bank profitability. And now we move to one of the most important part, finding and analysis, will be presented by Ms. Nguyen Cao. Welcome.
Thank you very much indeed for your well-prepared presentation today. I'm very happy to turn back again. So we move on to finding and analysis, chapter 4 in our presentation. Actually, the finding and analysis should be considered as a key backbone in our research, but it's totally related to statistics and econometrics. It's a dry theory, so I hope that not many of you get asleep. So in this part, we will cover the 3 basic econometric tests, namely joint significant test. I'm sorry a little bit. Test for statistical significance, test for multicollinearity, test for heterochaedaticity and autocorrelation. And later on, my friend will give you the model interpretation. First and foremost, to make it easier for you to follow, we will present joint significant test. I see your interest, Ms. Van. At this point, we will apply the software named Startup 12 to run the regression of RA on 9 proposed variables. We will test for whether all variables are jointly relevant to explain RA. If the p-value of F statistic variable is lower than alpha, 5% or 10%, we can come up with the conclusion that all proposed variables are jointly relevant to RA, otherwise not jointly relevant. So here we go, and you can see on the slide, we come up with the p-value of F statistic is equal to 0, so we come up with the conclusion that 9 proposed variables in our model are jointly relevant to explain RA. I mean that at least one local coefficient is different from 0. We move on to the individual significant test. The process is rather similar to the joint test, but as this test, we will test for the significance of each variable individually. So we will base on the p-value to conclude which variable is significant. If the p-value of this variable is lower than alpha, 5% or 10%, we conclude that this variable individually is significant to the model, otherwise insignificant. And you can see our result at the level alpha equal to 5%, we have X4, X5, and X6 are significant to our model. But this result ignite our concern whether other insignificant variable have the high p-value can have a disturbance impact on other variables. And you can see on the slide. So we continue to make the regression model by gradually omitting such insignificant variable. The higher the p-value is, the sooner it should be omitted from the model. And finally, we find out something very magical. The results confirm our prediction. X2 has a statistical meaning at the level of alpha equal to 10%. So we have our first estimated model, with X2, X4, X5, and X6 are significant to our model. But now we come up to test whether this model have any disease or not. I mean that we will test for the model fitness. The first test is a test for multicollinearity. In this test, we will find out whether this model exhibits the approximate linear relationship among the explanatory variables can lead to our unreliable regression estimation. As you can see, we find out that there is a high correlation between X5 and X6, more than 85%. So we have two solutions to solve the multicollinearity phenomenon. One is increase the sample size. It's impossible mission for us, to be honest. And the second thing is remove one of them. And we decide to remove one of them. We decide to remove X6 because it's local efficient, so a negative relationship with our A, in contrast with our previous forecast. Oh my God, this didn't have to test with that. The test for autocorrelation and heterogeneity is the two popular disease in any model, but thanks to start at 12, we easily to find out that our model has no autocorrelation and no heterogeneity because our panel data is homogeneity. So I finished the finding and analysis right now, and we move on to a very important. We have our model. Our model passed all econometric tests, but what is lying behind this model? It's economic meaning, and will be presented by one.
So thank you very much for your finding and analysis. And in the next part, I want to present about the model interpretation. And as you can see on the screen, after many tests, our equations are left with only 4 factors: the alpha, credit risk, tax rates, and inflation rates. And as you can see, that is the way how we calculate each variables. The credit risk is calculated by the ratios of loan to deposit. The tax rate equal CIT divided EBT. And the inflation rate here is the change in CPI. And as you can see, the intercept alpha or the constant equal 1.8. 1.8. It means that ROA equals 0, equal 1.8 when credit risk, inflation rate, and corporate tax equals 0. And the coefficient beta 2 equal 0.3. It means that if the credit risk indicator increases by 1%, then ROA will increase by 0.3%. And it shows a positive relation to ROA. And the rationale for this is that credit risk arises when loan appears, And when loan payers and loan increase, we can generate higher income. And for the slope coefficient beta 4, it equals minus 0.2, and it shows a negative relation to ROA. And it means that if the tax rate indicator increased by 1%, then ROA will decrease by 0.2%. And we find the reason for this is that it is kind of common sense, as you can see on the formula of ROA. ROA equals the ratio of net income to total assets. And net income equals earning before tax minus corporate tax. And finally, you can see that if tax increases, ROA will decrease. And the final slope coefficient, the beta 5, which is the highest one, is equal 0.7. And it means that if the change in CPI increased by 1%, then ROA will increase by 0.7%. And this is the variable that has the highest effect to ROA. And we find the rationale for this is that, firstly, change in CPI is a sign of economic growth, and as a result, many business activity will occur, and firms will have the high demand for loan, and high loan will generate higher income. And the second reason is that when the bank can forecast the change in CPI, and therefore they have the incentive to raise the interest both in lending and borrowing, and generally the gap between these two are usually greater. And that is the three variables that have effect on our model. And next we come to the conclusion will be presented by Wen.
Okay, well, Tuấn just told you guys about the model interpretation, one of the first most important parts of our group thesis. So now, because of shortcoming of researching, so our study has several limitations. First of all is the insufficiency and unavailability of data. At the beginning of researching, we want to use data from 2004 to 2013, accounting for 10 years. Because if the data of 10 years leads to the really precise and accurate model, a linear regression model, but the data is not available at all. So thus we must choose the choice that we choose the time of 10 years from after the global financial crisis 2008 until now, 2013. And secondly, is another shortcoming of our research is the obstacles of the linear regression model. The regression model is just a straight line relationship between dependent and independent variables. So in some cases, it's just the resultant does not really hold true. So thirdly is the difficulty in applying the regression model because we are just undergraduate students. So regression model, we need to utilize this model, and this model requires advanced econometric knowledge. So it's really hard for us to utilize. So the finally is the lack of the topic research in Vietnamese market. So that's it's quite hard for us to comparing and contrasting. So coming to the end of analysis, after 4 minutes econometric tests, we found out that the linear relationship between the inflation rate and RGDP. So after comparing the R square between these two rates, we come to the conclusion that the inflation rate is the significant impact of on the profitability of joint stock commercial banks in Vietnam. So we have 3 main findings here, as you can see very clearly in the slide. We have both credit risk and inflation risk. Both of them positively affect the profitability of joint stock commercial banks over the last 5 years. So tax rate is vital. So here we offer some implementations for the policymaker. So at the first, the policymakers, they need to take greater over control the internal and external factor over the commercial banking system. So otherwise, the top management of banks, they need to have sufficient knowledge to monitor and control all the factors. Otherwise, they have to credit risk management, how the current corporate tax are reduced in the future so far, to have management of tax explained, or based on the fiscal and monetary policy now, and to control the supply and demand. And furthermore, the policymakers really have to cooperate with other foreign banks. It's like a good techniques for bank policymakers to learn advanced knowledge from strong competitors, so gain much more profit in the future. So here, you guys see our table very clearly, the research question completion. We completely answered 3 main questions at the very beginning of our research. In the first question, we have 3 kinds of determinants: bank-specific characteristic, macroeconomic factors, and industry-specific determinants. So in the second question is how these factors affect the overall job circumstance in Vietnam. So we have 3 determinants: credit risk, inflation rate, and corporate tax rate. And the final question is the recommendation, as I mentioned so far in the previous slide. So this is the first study direction for future research. We can replicate the risk model for another country, just not only in Vietnam like our study, and generate more variables and maybe use the primary data or combination of the primary data and secondary data. Well, thank you very much indeed for your attention today. And now we're ready to the Q&A session. And please welcome the words from the committee. Thank you very much.
First of all, I very admire you because you are so brave to choose the quantitative method to do the thesis. It's very impressive. And when you do the question, I have read it and I have some questions for you related to the process of choosing variables. When you measure when you choose the independent variables, I see that you choose 8 variables, right? But are you sure that it will cover all the significant variables? And without neglecting any other important variables. For example, when we analyze ROA, if we use the loophole analysis, ROA depends significantly on net profit margin and asset utilities. But there's no variables relating to assets, utilities, or profit margin from your models. That is my first question. The second one, why do you choose loan to deposit as indicators for credit risk? Because it's not related to the definition of credit risk. So can you explain why? The first one, how do you define tax rate is bank-specific factors? And industry-specific factor of Vietnam is bad debts. Yes, why bad debt is Vietnam industry-specific variables. Okay, so you guys, everyone can answer it one for each.
Alright, thank you very much for the question from committee. We actually also interested about the way you raised your question, but now we would like to confirm our understanding as regards to the question, and later on we will have a few minutes for discussion, and then we will present respectively, right?